books haul and books slash it where I have in TikTok. So happily on one bedroom, but when I feel more lazy through therapy with that. Hi besties, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Lara, and for this week's video we're doing my top 10 series or books that I have read this year, kind of like a mid-year reading check-in. This year I set my goal to read 30 books throughout the year. I have currently finished 29 books because of the challenge that I did, like reading 5 books in 5 days. The video will be linked down below if you haven't watched it already. I have gotten so back into reading where I am finishing books so quickly, and I did do a little new books haul in my Bombay Diaries video, so you should check that out. Get into the top 10 books slash series I have read this year. There's some physical books and some I've read the online versions of, so there will be images. I have Spanish Love Deception. It is really good. The story is beautiful. People say it's very similar to The Hating Game, but I haven't read that yet. So yeah, see, I have tabbed it quite a bit where I have some favorite scenes and stuff, but my only issue with this book was that it was very long. Like, they could have easily finished the book in like half the length, but they dragged it out so much that it just got kind of annoying to the end. The story was definitely worth it. Aaron is probably one of my favorite book boyfriends ever. It's Always Been You is one of my favorite tropes. Fake dating, enemies to lovers, one bed, everything is my favorite. So only because of the writing I had to remove a point or two. So this book is a 3.5 out of 5. I think one of my favorite scenes of this book is when she goes to the washroom or whatever, and then the grandma says that your boyfriend is looking like a lost puppy. That part is so cute. In 9th place we have the Summer I Turned Pretty series. I read them all on my phone. I read the books right after the show came out. I loved the show, I loved the books. Hated Jeremiah in the end. He was my least favorite character, but I think pretty much during the show also I had my issues with him where I didn't like him. So I'm team Conrad from the beginning. I was very happy in the end, only I felt that the ending was kind of rushed where they didn't really show us what we wanted. At 8th place we have Billionaire Bosshole. I got the suggestion from TikTok, so I finally read it. I read this back in Bombay, and oh my god, Enemies to Lovers is always my favorite. Especially Enemies with Benefits to Lovers. That was... I did end up hating Ronan in the end because of what he did, but I also justified a little bit. Like, I get why he had to do what he did. Quinn was one of my favorites. She just denied it for so long that it annoyed me, but the book was definitely worth it. There's a kid screaming outside. 7th place is Anna and the French Kiss, the series. They are 3 interconnected standalone books. It's Anna and the French Kiss, Lola and the Boy Next Door, and Isla and the Happily Ever After. Literally my favorite book since 8th grade. Very comforting. High school romances, my favorite. My ranking for them individually, 3rd place for me is Lola and the French Kiss, and for me 2nd is Isla and Josh, and Anna the French Kiss. It was not a slow burn like in a way that I read slow burns now, but when I first read it, the slow burn really killed me, and I just... Now when I read these books, there is just so much more to look forward to, especially because of the writing. I just love Stephanie Perkins. At 6th place we have Mexican Gothic. The class last year for uni where we had to read books every 2 weeks, and this was one of the last books that we read. I read this whole book in 3 days. I don't know how people describe these kind of books, but it's like a mystery romance, but also it has like powers and stuff. I don't know how to explain what I'm saying. Themes of decay, sacrifice and rebirth. At 5th place we have The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I can't hate this book. That is only one thing that I can say about this book, is that nobody can hate this book. Like, the biggest secret was revealed so early on that as we got through it, everything added up, everything made sense, and it was so good. At 4th place we have my new comfort book. I have read this book 4 times this year and I'm currently on the 5th time. That is Love Hypothesis. It has fake dating. It has the the most perfect chemistry. It has it's always been you trope. One trope that I didn't expect to like as much as I ended up doing was that they actually had two beds, but then they chose to sleep in one. I heard someone on TikTok say this, whether they don't like the one bed trope, but rather when there are two beds and they just choose to sleep in one bed. And I think that's my new favorite trope. I finished this book at 2 a.m. and then I read his point of view at 2:30. So you can just say that I was dying. The hypothesis in the beginning of the chapters, Olive's character, Adam's character. Adam is another one of my favorite book boyfriends. The always been you trope will always be my favorite. I don't think I will ever say this enough. That is so underrated in this book is when right before she says I love you and he just goes like, what's wrong, sweetheart? Like, at third place we have Verity by Colleen Hoover. I did read this on camera. If you haven't watched that video yet, it'll be linked down below. The emotions I have gone through while reading this book are unmatched. I think only 2 books have given me this kind of emotion. Every character in this book needs therapy. I think for a good like 1.5 to 2 weeks after I finished this book, I was just thinking about this book constantly. I can't explain the emotions I went through. You have to watch that video if you haven't, because I was crazy. That book made me crazy. Just don't read it at night. It's too creepy. Don't read it at night. Next is a series I just read this month. It's the Twisted series, interconnected standalone romance books. There are 4 books in total called Twisted Love, which is Ava and Alex, Twisted Games, that is Rice and Bridget, Twisted Hate, Jules and Josh, and Twisted Lies, Stella and Christian. I will never shut up about this series. This series is probably one of my new favorite series that I have ever read. I finished all 4 books in the month. The books have very similar aesthetics, but also they are very different. And I don't know how to explain that differently. This is just my ranking. Please don't be mean to me. So at 4th place, we have Twisted Hate, which is the enemies with benefits to lovers. That is Jules and Josh. I know what I said.
Especially enemies with benefits to lovers, that was...
I love both of them, but I feel like the betrayal that Jules did was not as big as what Josh ended up doing. What he did really shattered my heart, and then Jules forgave him so quickly that, you know, she is such a fierce character and such a strong-headed character as compared to the other girls, where it was very disappointing that she didn't take the space that she deserved or the time that she deserved, and she forgave Josh very quickly. At 3rd place, we have Twisted Lies. I loved Stella and Christian's story. The betrayal was good. It was like very interesting and very surprising, but also not so surprising that it made sense. My only issue with this was that the writing was really annoying. The author probably mentioned that he has whiskey eyes like 1,000,000 times. The whole book was just about him having whiskey eyes. Like, we get it. And he wears suits. We get it. When they got back together, it was not because of something he had done, but rather that she felt safe and protected with him, and that, you know, he's not as bad. He was just like, I'm trying to explain toxic behavior, and I am the person who tells people that don't get into toxic relationships. So right now I'm just explaining toxicity. Like, shut up, Lara. At 2nd place, we have Twisted Games, Bridget and Rias. I never thought I liked Forbidden Love until I read this book. This character was very strong and Bridget was equally strong, so that they had clashes. After they got together, the confidence that Bridget had increased like tenfold, where she had so much more motivation and so much more faith in herself because of Rias. And that was one thing that I genuinely loved about the book. And at 1st place, we have the OG, the first book, that is Twisted Love. I have read some of the scenes 1,000,000 times and there will never be enough. Alex and Ava's story will always be my best. Even as I read through the other books and there were small like Alex and Ava scenes, I died. Of Ava as much as I love Alex, because I'm normally not a fan of the females sometimes in books because they just take themselves for granted. But Ava made Alex work. She grew as a person in that 1 year in London while Alex was with her. Alex gave her the space, but he also protected her. Had the time to move on and then justify it and then understand it and then genuinely re-fall in love with Alex, which is why it's my favorite and will always remain my favorite. It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. This is my best read of 2022 and I am signing and stamping on it right now. I just remember the emotions I went through. Lily is genuinely one of my favorite book characters I have ever fallen in love with. Atlas, you're the king, man. You're my favorite book boyfriend ever. I have so many favorite book boyfriends, it's not even funny. Lily's growth alone is what makes this book a 10 on 10. Atlas waiting for Lily, giving her the space, again 10 on 10. These are my top 10 books / series I have read this year. I'm going to also insert a list of other books I have read throughout the year, because I have also read a lot of other standalone books which I did not enjoy as much, or I liked them but they just didn't make it into this video. Now I'm reading Marriage for One. I'm reading A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime. I'm reading Song of Achilles. I'm reading Ugly Love. I'm reading Love Hypothesis again because I'm constantly reading that book. I started Song of Achilles before I left for India, but I didn't carry the book with me. So I'm going to restart the book after a few weeks. And I'm currently reading Ugly Love and Love Hypothesis side by side because Colleen Hoover, I need therapy with that book. Marriage for One, I downloaded it when I was in Bombay, but I never started or got through the book, so I'm still in the middle of that book. And lastly, craving, or I wanted to read a high school love story, and I had just got my Kindle, so I just thought that that's the perfect book to start with, hopefully. I've never read 5 books simultaneously ever before. I'm probably gonna go crazy by the end of this week. Before I end this video, so I was scrolling on TikTok and I have kind of reached book talk. I love romance books. That's one of the only genres I read. And somebody explained it very well on TikTok, saying that the reason I love romance so much is because I get the opportunity to fall in love with someone again and again, and my brain releases the same type of chemicals or hormones or whatever when I read as when I would be falling in love myself. Insert that picture here because I have no idea if I explained it properly. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. If you have read or will be reading any of the books I mentioned, comment down below and let me know how you like them, or you can even DM me on Instagram. You can share this video, comment down below, subscribe to my channel, press the bell icon to get notified every time I post a video, and I will see you next time.